Maggie here. I'm a behavioral specialist with Pets in Need. Today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about resource guarding. So a resource could be anything that your dog finds of value. So it could be a favorite toy or chew bone, their food or their water dish. It could be a space like a dog bed or a crate. It could even be another dog or a person. And there are varying degrees of resource guarding. So it could be something very mild where you approach the dog and they simply gobble up their food faster, more frantically, or it could be something much more serious. If you think you have a serious resource guarding issue, consult a trainer. There are lots of resource guarding specialists. That's all they do, and they can help you. This really is a common issue. Before I talk to you a little bit about what to do if your dog is a resource guarder, I first want to talk a little bit about what not to do. There is a very common misconception that if you simply handle your dog or put your hands in their dog food while they're eating, or if they have a chew bone, that they'll just simply learn to deal with it. They'll be conditioned to allow you to handle them, and that is not the case. When your dog is eating and you're picking that food bowl up and setting it down and picking it up and setting it down, you're increasing their frustration significantly. You're actually reinforcing the idea that there is a need to guard that. You are going to take it away, and that can escalate the resource guarding. It can even cause an issue that wasn't there before. If your dog is eating or they have a toy or a bone, allow them to enjoy that prize. Let them be. There's absolutely no reason that you need to be touching or handling your dog. Another thing that you don't want to do is correct your dog when they're showing signs of resource guarding. The last thing you want to do is eliminate that sign of communication that your dog's feeling uncomfortable with you close and increasing your bite risk. So let's say you've brought a new dog home and you know that they're a resource guarder. First, if you're in a multi-dog household, keep resources separate. That includes separate feeding areas and separate crates. If you have children in the home, be sure to have a stern talk with them. Let them know that if the dog has a resource or they're eating, not to approach that dog. And if the dog does growl at the child, make sure to let them know to come to you immediately and to not approach the dog. Now that we know what not to do, let's talk about some exercises that we can do to help improve your dog's resource guarding behavior. So the first thing I'm going to do, I have Ralph here to help us demonstrate, and he has a nylabone, which he does not consider high value at all. He really doesn't care for it. I like to start with something that the dog doesn't typically guard. So that way they're learning that I'm not going to take away this resource, and you're going to get something better for allowing me to pass or to be near you with a resource. So I have something of very high value. So I'm going to walk past as he has the resource. As I pass, I'm going to click and treat. If your dog is exhibiting resource guarding signals at all while you're practicing this exercise, you're not practicing with the right type of item. So if your dog doesn't guard the food bowl, you could do that. You could do this with a water dish or a toy. It could be a crate. So I'm walking past and tossing. Pretty simple. I could even do this from further away. Once your dog's doing well with that, we could try doing a tougher resource. He doesn't guard food, so I'm going to add this, but it is higher value than his nylabone. So I'm going to do the same thing. In this case, I'm trying to drop it right in the food dish. But if this, I could toss it as well if I needed to. Now we're going to increase the criteria a little bit more. So while he's eating, and again, this is something that he does not guard, so we're doing some foundations work and pre-work before we add some more difficult exercises. I am going to walk by, click, and drop a very high value treat a little bit further away from him. Apparently, he's just going to follow me for the food and not eat it on the floor. So toss that again. And I'm going to allow him to eat that food. And then he can go back to enjoying his food. So I'm not taking away that resource, but I am walking past and I am tossing a treat. So he's having to move away from the resource. But nothing bad happened. I didn't take the resource at all. So I would wait for him to start eating again. And then once he starts eating, I might walk away or walk past and toss a treat maybe a little bit further back. So maybe here.
Perhaps you have a dog who resource guards with other dogs. Following the same steps as our previous exercises, we're going to start out with a resource of low value to the dog, and in Bob's case, that would be petting. For this exercise, Bob will receive a food reward each time the other dog passes near him while still receiving his resource, petting. I would want to make sure that I have the focus of the non-guarder as I pass and even use a leash if I need to. During this exercise, Bob decides treats means it's time to perform his trained cues. Training is of moderate to high value for Bob. While it's difficult to observe in this video, Bob starts to feel uncomfortable and shows slight stress signs as Ralph approaches. If this were a training scenario and I was working with a dog who does resource guard, I would want to make sure to lessen the criteria by adding more distance or even switching the resource to one that we're not at risk for him guarding. Just like our solo exercises, it's important that we don't move on to more difficult exercises until the dog is stress-free and the dog who does guard seems happy and comfortable with the dog passing. If at any point the dog seems to show signs of more serious resource guarding, be sure to remove the non-guarder from the exercise and consult a trainer.
Now that your dog is feeling a little bit more comfortable with leaving a non-valuable resource and going for a treat and returning back, I like to do a little bit of prep work to help manage the behavior in the home. So you can take a few Ziploc bags of treats of something very high value and stash them in different areas of the house. If you have these treats available and your dog does get a hold of something that you need to take away, maybe it's something dangerous or you just need to remove the object safely, having these treats are very helpful. Your dog's already practiced, they're comfortable leaving the resource, and they never really are afraid of you taking that resource because it's never happened before. And you can take these treats and you can simply take one while your dog has a resource. I like to toss it between 6 and 10 feet away. So you toss that treat, and then that allows you to safely move in, pick up the resource, whatever it may be, and move it to somewhere safer, out of dog's reach. Thank you guys so much, and I hope you've learned something about how to manage resource guarding in your household.